Let the word go
The
forth.
challenge, the opportunity to connect. The 1960s, a time of imagination and change, a time of anger and fear. The 1960s, a pioneering program called Challenge
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
that looked at our connections, our divisions, through the lens of shared values.
For something real.
60 years later, we examine our divisions, our connections, our shared pains and successes in a new program called Challenge 2.0. Last week we spoke with two representatives of the Ukrainian community here in Western Washington. We heard about the increasing amounts of psychological, emotional, and certainly monetary support that they are expending on behalf of Ukrainians who are now entering the fourth year of their war with Russia. We're going to continue that conversation today. Well, we're very fortunate again this week to have with us Tanya Zayka. And Tanya, you're a board member of the Ukrainian Association of Washington State. Thank you much for joining us.
Thank you.
A second week. And Father Andriy Matlak, thank you very much. And you're with the Holy Trinity Ukrainian Orthodox Church, and that's now in Seattle, I believe. So thank you for coming back for this conversation to continue.
Thank you for having me.
I think one of the surprises for many people looking at the faith aspect is some of the evangelical churches within the United States have been supporters of not Ukraine, but Russia. What's your reaction to that? And have you had any communication, any interchange with any of the faith leaders of such institutions that are supporting Russia as opposed to the Ukraine, Father?
We have a council of churches here with Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, and then also Protestant churches like Pentecostals or Evangelicals, Baptist churches in here in the area of Seattle. So we get together and we writing collective letter to governments, even to President Trump. We wrote a couple of letters to actually put those people who are making war crimes, that they would be responsible for what they did, and they would take that to that level. And we wrote to local leaders, I mean, through this United States, to asking again and again for the support for not to keep Ukrainian war away from the talk as it sometimes does, because well, this is, third year of the war, and some people say we don't see anything about Ukraine on the news anymore. What's happening? Are we forgetting that there's a big genocide that is happening right now? We're trying to bring, and I always say that, don't be silent, talk to your neighbor, bring the word outside, don't just sit on those small islands that we are sometimes comfortable in, and that's it. But talk to them. Be influenced by your word, as we are, as Christians, asked to be the disciples, right? We're not just having apostles in the first century, but we are disciples of new age, and we need to bring that word, the word of truth, the word that enlighten others, that brings attention to those who are talking unjust sometimes, or they are actually supporting or helping aggressor. Because even during the rallies sometimes I worry that there's might be somebody who would be aggressor. And I saw a couple of times when we were standing in the city of Seattle, thanking the community or just bringing the attention again to the war in Ukraine. Some people are driving, showing some inappropriate signs to us. So it happens. But are we going to stop talking because of one person? No. To the point of gospel, this is not to the point of bringing love to one another. This is not answering the call of God. This is being aggressor. And to normalize that, we cannot be silent. We have to talk about it.
Tanya, I know that you occasionally watch Russian television. Any observations that you care to share from what you see there relative to the dialogue that we see in this country?
Good question, thank you. Speaking of Russian television, I wanted to add to what Father Andriy said. So Patriarch Kirill, the head of Russian Orthodox Church in Moscow, I've heard him once saying that similar to how you would spank a child who is misbehaving. Russia is disciplining Ukraine by bad behavior by bombing Ukraine. And there's multiple images of members of Russian Orthodox Church blessing missiles with holy water, because they're doing, they're calling it a holy war. So it's quite terrifying. Yes, so on a rare occasion, I do watch Russian television, mainly certain propaganda channels, just to be in the know. It's quite nauseating, so I don't do it very often. But it's very, very concerning to me to hear President Trump repeating verbatim what I hear from Putin, Lavrov, Peskov, the Putin's cabinet, and from main Russian propagandists. He's repeating exactly the same narratives, as if they wrote Trump's speeches about Ukraine.
We're beginning to hear now, there has been some talk about the possibility of deporting, I think, 240,000 Ukrainians that have come to this country. What have you heard about that, and what impact is that having on the communities of which both of you are a part? Father, I might ask you first.
Everybody's worrying because they asking themselves, how can we go back if I don't have a house? We have numbers of parishioners who are actually from the regions that are occupied. Mariupol, Kherson area, Mykolaiv, all those areas that are being bombed right now even, or some from Kharkiv, some from Donetsk regions, that they actually left in 2014 because war started that long. And so where are we gonna go back to? I mean, they have no place to go. They have some, if you have a family on the western part of Ukraine, then you might. But then if you don't have anybody, then that's a biggest question that they are asking themselves. What we're gonna do? What's gonna happen to us? Are we gonna go straight to occupation, or are we gonna go straight to the war zone? Because right now, and it was done by Russians, if they occupied, they immediately put those young men that stayed behind or got captured. They will give them the rifles, they will put everything that is needed and send them to the front line. They're not just in occupation. They are sending to kill Ukrainians, their family members sometimes. And that's the people worry. Of course, they are trying to adjust their papers in here and do everything that is possible to stay legal, and they are, and they're working hard, they're paying taxes that are contribute to United States.
You get the adult perception, but then you have children. What are you seeing in your community, in your faith community, your parish, in terms of the reactions of children and the parents' attempts to help them feel more settled?
Work with them as hard as we can to talk, and parents talking with them actually about war and explaining what's happening or what happened when they left. That they left this war zone, that they could not sleep well, they could not live, or they were actually under occupation for some time, and now they can enjoy the free world, to enjoy going to school normally, not as they attend schools in Ukraine in some catacombs or in the subways station, or now they building the actually schools underground, so the kids would continue going to school or on Zoom as they do.
What sort of observations or understanding do you have on that, Tanya?
I was just thinking of, we don't realize the impact of how emotionally difficult and psychologically difficult it is to even recover after even several years being in safety of United States, to recover from what they experienced back home. And I have a personal friend who came here before the full invasion started, and they have a 11-year-old daughter. And now that the whole immigration deportation talks started, she comes home from middle school and she cries because she's asking her parents, do we have to leave home? And she's been here for 7 years and this is her home. She does not remember Ukraine. So this is her home, and she is concerned as a little child that she's going to literally will be forced to leave her home.
And there's undoubtedly talk that they hear at school.
Yes, yeah, the kids talk about it in school. Some kids are mean, of course. There's those instances. Yeah, it's very unfortunate.
And this is going to have a psychological cost, I would think, on them, not just during their childhood, but it's going to be sticking to them in some degree for years to come. What do you think would be the cost, and we hopefully will not be going down that road, but if because of the U.S. action, Russia is able to defeat the Ukraine forces or annex perhaps part of that, what would be the cost? We know that it would be a terrible cost to Ukraine, but what would be the cost to the U.S. economically, politically, in terms of its stature in the world? Father, what would be your observations? Then, Tanya, I'd ask you to share your thoughts too.
It's scary to even think about it. I mean, because I didn't grow up under the Cold War regime. I mean, in here, and a lot of parishioners who lived here, or people or friends that I made during those years, that it had the impact on them, and they still remind themselves what's happened. And under occupation, we see Bucha, we see Irpin, we see many other cities that, Mariupol, thousands of people were buried in mass graves because Russians came. We can overturn what is happening. We can go, one man can say to his armies, go back. War will be over. War will be over instantly when he's gonna tell his armies, go back.
Yeah.
When Ukraine will say, we're done, then it's gonna be just the beginning of what's in plans for that one man.
Right.
And we have to see it as it is. Because that he's not only an enemy to Ukraine, but he's an enemy to a lot of people.
And he's talked about raising his sights to other parts of what used to be the Soviet Union, Poland, and other places. Tanya, what would be your perceptions on that question?
The way I envision what's going on, I feel like right now America is aligning herself with Russia, with other tyrannic governments. Even from yesterday's news, what countries did not get tariffed?
Right.
Russia, Belarus, and North Korea. Everyone else got tariffs. So as United States becomes friendlier with tyrannical governments, other tyrannical governments are taking notice. And as United States alienates herself from our partners, who always been our partners, Europe, Canada, I feel like the entire equilibrium of how things were is just being completely disruptive. So I think we're in some bad dream of the world restructuring itself, and the powers are going away from what's stable and good and right towards dividing up the world again, it reminds me of the times of colonization where money
Right.
is the deciding factor. What's in it for us, right? United States asks. And they're talking to Putin about dividing up Ukraine. You take the eastern part, we take the minerals, or we somehow control the rest of Ukraine. So we're going back a century where we just go into a territory and just cut it up, divide it up, different spheres of influence. And if China is watching, and if China wants to take Taiwan, and America and the West are not really going to do anything tangible to help Taiwan because they let Ukraine down. So I think it will be a snowball of disastrous events if United States lets Russia take over Ukraine. And as you mentioned, Russia has their sights on not just Ukraine. Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia are very worried. Poland is worried. So there's several countries who are not sleeping well at night, and because the fate of Ukraine will determine their own fate as well.
So what I might ask in closing, if people that are watching would like to help, what organizations, what ways would you recommend? Tanya, I know you have some ideas, and Father, I suspect you do too.
So Ukrainian Association of Washington State is about 50 years old, a nonprofit that was originated in the 70s. They do a lot of work for Ukrainian community here, as well as work for Ukrainians in Ukraine. Their top projects right now is prosthetics, helping Ukrainians who lost their limbs regain their independence in everyday life, and demining. About 20% or 30% of Ukraine is mined. There's images of one machine that's a demining machine that goes through the field, and after it is a tractor that sows the seeds. So farmers, every time they go in the field, they are risking of being blown up. I have goosebumps as I'm talking about it. So Ukrainian Association Washington State would be one organization. There is also Volya Fund. Volya Fund is established here in Seattle, and all organizations that I'm mentioning are led by women. That is also a very important factor for me. There's women really did step up from on every aspect of volunteering, from working here locally to fighting in the trenches. So Volya Fund is established by several women. Two of them, Tanya and Yulia, live here in Seattle. And Yulia works specifically on, prosthetics for bionic arms and legs for Ukrainians who lost their limbs. Third organization that I would like to mention is Toloka Ukrainian Cultural Center. They do a lot of work with refugees here. They're based out of Bellevue. They promote Ukrainian culture. They do a lot of work with Ukrainian children. And of course, every single organization, even if they do a lot of work locally, everybody helps people in Ukraine. So those would be my three top picks.
Thank you. Father, what would you recommend?
As locally,
All of those?
Pani Tatiana used all of them, but then our church as well. Not our parish, but our church, because even in our parish, if we collect donation, then we doing together work with our eparchy, with our center in New Jersey. So UOCofUSA.org. If you visit, you can see the link there, Help Ukraine. And we do help varieties of, through the 3 years of war, we bought together as a church more than 200 vehicles for Ukraine. That's ambulances, that's all the trucks, small trucks, big trucks, I mean, to help on the front line to move the wounded soldiers. One of the first vehicles that Archbishop mentioned, and he said that one of the battalion asked him for, it was a van with a freezer, so they could move their bodies of those who fallen on the fields. So that was one of the saddest vehicles that we as church had to buy it but then we help even during nowadays when we help chaplains, we help frontline, those people who are still out there. We have contacts with priests in there so they can bring the produce or water or anything that the people are in need, who are not leaving because they are either too old or they have nowhere to go. So they are staying behind, and we have priests who are actually we working very tightly with Ukrainian Church in Ukraine under jurisdiction of Metropolitan Epiphany, and we have one of the metropolitan in Dnipro, who himself is actually passing the bags with produce to people once a week or once in a couple of days to the people who are coming, so they can actually come and take some food for themselves. It's difficult sometimes to move things from United States because it's such a long distance. So we have parishes in Europe, and then the priests locally with parishes, they buy things what is needed, and then we have actually logistics by now is very developed. So deacons from Ukraine or priests from Ukraine, they coming to pick that up. So they drive actually the vehicles that we buy and actually the things that we get for the people in Ukraine. So, but locally as well. If people can and know that they are Ukrainians, just say hello, give them a hug. Make them welcomed in here, that even during nowadays when they worry about their papers or what's going to happen with them, at least that sign of love, a simple hug or say hi at least to one another, as we all need to hear that sometimes, because that simple how are you doesn't work anymore. Because if you ask how are you ready to listen? So
good point. I would like to add to that, if that's okay, as Father Andriy said, there's so many instances when, so I wear my ring. I took off all my rings because I play catchball and I always have to tape my fingers. And this is the only ring that stays. And it's been a conversation starter so many times. And so many times a cashier or a neighbor on my seat in the airplane will ask me about Ukraine, and sometimes as a Starbucks barista will say, Slava Ukraini, or we're with you, we support you. And you wouldn't believe how it just turns your day from ordinary day to something amazing, and how many times you want to cry, because a simple we are with you means the world. And while I was listening to Father Andriy, I forgot to mention one more organization that is amazing, does wonderful work. It's Ukrainian Defense Support. I don't work with them personally, but we intersect just quite often. And if somebody is interested in looking that organization up, it's called Ukrainian Defense Support. They're out of Shoreline in Seattle. And one thing that takes maybe 5 minutes of your time and costs nothing is to call your representatives in Congress, your state representatives, your Senate representatives, and tell them to not stop supporting Ukraine, to keep Ukraine atop of mind. And that is a very, very effective way to support Ukraine.
From what I understand, I think of all the different regions of the United States, the greatest number of Ukrainian refugees are right here in the Pacific Northwest. Is that the case?
Yes, I don't remember the numbers.
Chicago would be, and New York, bigger cities would
Right.
be probably, but so New York receives people. Usually, most of them are coming.
That's true.
Because
First
we
port of
have
entry.
we have one parish, and I actually spoke with priest's wife, and she said that sometimes I come to the church, and I see new people all the time, but they are coming for 2 weeks and then they're gone because they are moving somewhere
Someplace else.
elsewhere. Yeah, so that would be just like on the beginning. That would be probably the same case. I mean, 1900s when people would come and they would look for better place or maybe different place to live. But I would say maybe Northwest probably has around 100,000 Ukrainians in the area. It
Yes.
was mentioned probably more than 20,000 of newcomers during the war came here to Washington State.
So these are almost certainly people that are either your neighbors or you're encountering in stores or in various other places, playgrounds where your children play. So we hope that people will take this to heart. I'm sure they will. And thank you both for coming on and talking with us and making people more aware of this. And we'll hope that we have brighter sources of conversation the next time we meet. So
I
thank
hope
you
so
both
too.
very much.
Thank you.
Praying for peace.
Thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Challenge 2.0. We hope you'll join us again next week. Thank you.